Hi everybody, welcome to this video tutorial. Today we're going to look at a system that allows us to log in by entering a password. We are only given 3 chances to log in successfully, and I'm sure we'll be locked out of the account if we're unsuccessful. We've been given some starter code, and we're going to be looking at how to recreate this scenario using 3 different loop structures. We're going to look at a do-while solution, we're going to look at a while loop solution, and we're going to look at a for loop solution. We've been given some starter code, so let's jump into the starter code. Now I am going to ignore these global variables here, but of course feel free to try and figure out what the heck they're doing in this program. In our main function, we've got this welcome message. We set up the actual password. This is the real password that we're trying to enter. And it looks like we're sending the real password into a function called do-while-sample. Okay, so this is being sent into the function. And here is the do-while-sample function. This is the definition. Look at the signature of it. The signature of a function tells us the name of the function, the return type of the function. This function doesn't return anything. And it also tells us the data type of any parameters. So remember, we're sending the real password into this function, and this parameter is helping us to process the real password. So let's expand the function and see what's going on. Now we are counting how many times the user tries to enter the correct password. So I've created a variable here to monitor that count. I've also created a string which is going to store the password entered by the user from the keyboard. In fact, there's that line of code there. We're getting data from the keyboard and we're assigning it to that string variable. Okay. Now, we're using a do-while loop to do this. We're going to do these 3 things while the password that I enter doesn't equal the correct password, which is represented by this parameter here. And the count is less than 3. Okay? So we're going to try to enter the correct password while we're wrong, and the count is less than 3. Okay. Now, when we come out of the do-while loop, we need to figure out how did we get out of the loop? Did we get out of the loop because we entered the correct password, or did we get out of the loop because the count became 3 or more? Okay. So this logic is trying to figure out how we exited the do-while loop. So let's run the code and see if it works. You have 3 chances to enter the password. Okay, here's chance number 1. Ooh, I have 2 chances to enter the password. Okay. So count at the moment must be 1 because 3 minus 1 is 2. Okay, so count is 1 at the moment. So let's try again. Whoa, I've only got 1 more chance to enter the password. Let's try 1 more time. And the account has been locked. Okay. If my password equals password, when we get out of the loop, it means we can log in. But in this situation, that wasn't true, so the account has been locked. Okay. So take a moment to see if you can figure out how the do-while loop works. Interestingly, in a do-while loop, the loop code will always execute at least once. Let's just make a note of that. And just to prove that, let's run the code again. Okay, so this time I'm going to enter the real password. But notice we are in the loop. you have 3 chances to enter the password. That's this line of code here. We're in the loop, and it's asking me to enter the password, so let's do it. That's the real password, and we are logging in. Okay, so the loop code always executes once in a do-while loop, at least once. Okay, so have a moment to think about that. Now I'm going to comment out that call in the main function, and I'm going to uncomment the while sample. Let's see how a while loop does this. So again, we're getting the real password as a parameter. I'm setting up a count and a string to get the user's attempt. Now this time, before we go into the loop, we need to get the first attempt, right? You have 3 chances to enter the password, and we get the password. And let's increment the count because that's the first chance. Then we need to set up the condition for the while loop. While the password that I entered doesn't equal the real password, and the count is less than 3, we're going to force the user to try again. Okay. Get the next password and increment the count. And when we get out of the while loop, we need to figure out how we got out of the while loop. Was it because we entered the correct password, or was it because we exceeded the count condition? Right? There are 2 ways to get out of this loop. So that's what this code here is doing. Okay, so let's run the code. Okay, so here we are. This is the line we're at. We're not in the loop yet. You have 3 chances to enter the password. I'm now going to enter the password. Okay, here we go. I'm going to do hello. Now we're in the loop. We're in the loop. Okay. We're still in the loop. Okay. Okay, so this became false. So false and anything is false. So we jump out of the loop and we just check. Why are we out of the loop? Is it because we entered the correct password or not? Okay. Now notice with a while loop, there's no guarantee that we will enter the loop. It might not execute even once. Okay, so let's just make a note of that. And to prove that to you, let's run the code again. And I'm going to enter the correct password, which was 5ECRET exclamation mark. That's the correct password. So at the moment I'm here, I'm just entering the first version of the password. Then we're going to increment the count, and then maybe we will go into the while loop. Nope, we didn't go into the while loop at all. We jumped straight down here, and we are logging in. Okay, so that's the difference between a while loop and a do-while loop. A do-while loop's code will always execute at least once. However, with a while loop, there's no guarantee that the code will execute in the loop. All right, very quickly, let's go into the for loop sample and just see what's going on here. Again, it takes a parameter which represents the real password. And we're going to use a for loop this time. We're going to loop 3 times. And if the password that's entered is the same as the real password, we're just going to break. We're going to break out of the loop. But we still need to check, how did we get out of the loop? Did we get out of the loop because we broke out of the loop? Or did we get out of the loop because the loop just finished naturally? Okay. So again, we've got some similar logic to figure out why we are out of the loop. Now we do have an error here, and the reason is we need to initialize this variable. We need to give it some initial data. Okay. Let's run the code and see if it works. You have 3 chances to enter a 5-letter word. What's that talking about? To enter a password. Let's just edit that, because that doesn't make any sense. And we'll try again. You have 3 chances to enter a password. You have 2 chances to enter a password. You have 1 chance to enter the password. Let's do the right one. Brilliant. Okay. So there are 3 variations there of how to simulate exactly the same scenario. Take some time to think about it, see if you can figure out the differences between while loops, do while loops, and for loops.